Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube painting process video. This time around I'll be showing you the process for my Cyclops fan art from Marvel Rivals or X-Men 97, whichever you prefer. And as usual, I'll be going over a topic of discussion in art. This time around I'll be talking about something when it comes to inspirations. Now, like with every other video that I've discussed this sort of thing, I am not one to judge anybody on what is inspirational to them and what influences their work. However, you yourself have to be very self-aware of what is influencing you and what is inspiring you. This sounds a little bit weird because obviously a lot of times these things are visceral. If you see a photograph or you watch a certain movie or you look at certain artwork, there's a gut feeling when something really clicks with you. And there's no amount of convincing from anybody else that will change that. But when it comes to becoming more professional and heading towards that level of art, we do have to be very careful and very self-aware of what exactly we are consuming and see what is applicable for and helpful for us. I'll give the easiest example I can think of. There are a lot of times where, let's say we are watching something like Dragon Ball Z. Now, obviously a lot of people, especially my generation growing up, are very much influenced by everything about Dragon Ball. We were crazy about Dragon Ball Z. In fact, like many others who are watching this, I was fairly inspired to draw, and one of the main reasons rather, to draw because of the Dragon Ball Z style. I really liked drawing Goku and all the other characters as a kid. Now, that being said, it is also not the most productive when it comes to drawing technically correct. Now, there is an intangible benefit to being inspired to pick up the pencil and draw, like a lot of these cartoons would have made a lot of people do. But if we are trying to learn the fundamentals and really capture the proper constructive ways of drawing, then there are obviously many more ways to get inspired by than to copy Dragon Ball Z. And that's the harsh reality. Now, I'm not saying that Akira Toriyama's work is somehow bad. No, heck no. The problem is that Akira Toriyama got to the point where his work was so abbreviated and stylized that it's very hard to capture everything that he abbreviated and stylized in his work, because it's basically step 50 in the process of learning art. You earn and work your way to a style like drawing Dragon Ball Z and Akira Toriyama's work. Just copying how he did things is disqualifying everything, every influence that he had, all the hard work that he did to learn the craft, and you're just skipping all the steps to try to copy that. That's never going to work. You can get very close, but you'll always look like you're doing something wrong because you are. It's impossible to encapsulate so many different things, life experiences that Akira Toriyama went through that allowed him to get to the point where he's drawing Dragon Ball Z style. And just by copying that is not going to do it justice, and you're not going to have the muscle memory nor the knowledge to be able to pull it off properly. So a lot of kids who look at Dragon Ball Z's characters, they think it's easy to draw, the eyes are triangle or whatever, But in reality, there are so many subtle proportions, anatomy, colors, and that sort of thing that unifies everything together to make it work. Now, that's not to say that you can't be inspired with stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is you have to be careful what you take in. And you have to question and be self-aware as to why an artist might choose to draw certain proportions over others, and why they are making choices in their style over others. If you are just copying the aesthetics of things and you're just idolizing these artists, you're never going to learn, because you're just copying and you're skipping all the steps that allowed this person to make these decisions to that point. This is also why that, contrary to my own self-interest, I tell people not to just copy my work, because even though I'm not nearly at the end of my art journey, my style is at a point where it's so many different things that I've grown up with and learned from fundamentals that just trying to copy what I do is going to hurt you in the long run. And I try to tell people to never do that for me, and don't do it to other professional artists. You're not going to learn properly that way. You may like the way that, for instance, I do my lighting, but my way of doing lighting may not fit your aesthetics of your anatomy, of your characters that you're drawing, for instance. So let's say you draw proportions in a completely different manner because you like them. Adding my colors is not going to fit that in most cases. You will have to perhaps take inspiration from how I do things, but you need to stylize it in your own way. You need to make your own decisions properly. And yes, this will come from trial and error. I've done this for myself, just trying out different styles and trying different techniques from other artists before I could manage to abbreviate and stylize, simplify things in such a way that makes sense for me and everything else I'm combining with. Keep in mind that every artist style is going to be a combination of a lot of influences, but those influences are not going to combine properly to each other, if that makes sense. You need to find your own combo that works for you and works for other people as well. And there's no one size fits all for anything. The colors that work for me are not going to work for you. The anatomy that you use is not going to work for my characters. That sort of thing is very important to be self-aware of. So be very, very diligent on knowing what to take in from each of your inspirations. Don't be too inspired by one singular artist, and don't be too inspired by every artist. You need to actually have a little bit of ego, as I said from before. To summarize what I've said in another video, you need to tell yourself that, yes, I am inspired by these artists and by these things, but I have my own way of doing things, and I can take those ideas and make it my own. And that's how you find your style, not just from copying others' inspirations and that sort of thing. You need to take those in sort of as a grain of salt and bring it to your own world of decisions while you are painting. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is the final piece of Cyclops from Marvel Rivals X-Men 97. As usual, like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out my social media down in the links below. Any bit of help is greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.